Tobias Harris. This was, I don't know what the opposite of masterclass is. Shit
Disaster
show.
class.
Disaster class.
Yeah.
That should be the title of the show. A disaster class from Tobias Harris. In this one, he played 27 minutes, had 7 points, 3 of 9 from the field. Pretty much through like the majority of the game, he only had 5 points. He was far and away the worst player on the basketball court. Like I said this before we went live. Like no one can convince me otherwise. If Tobias Harris is not on that court tonight, the Sixers win this game. And you look at, it's not a coincidence that the Sixers had their best game of the year against Cleveland without Tobias Harris just a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So, Sean, what happened with Tobias? Only 27 more games, man. 27 more games.
I hope, man. I really hope.
I said
the tweet joking back at you saying that notification of Sixers have re-signed Tobias Harris on a 3-year, $45 million deal is going to hit like a bus. And that is my greatest fear because I've now hit the point where I don't care of the cost. I've talked so much about like a great deal of the criticism is because of the contract, that it's not him as a player. Tonight, it's him as a player. It's what he did on the court. And one of these sticking points, I guess the positives when you weigh the pros and cons of Tobias has always been he has been a guy that has looked better without Joel Embiid, that he's risen his game when the team has needed it during those opportunities. That was far from the case tonight. The Sixers were a better team when he was not on the floor. There was a part of me that thought Nick Nurse was officially going to bench him when he did not come back in to start that fourth quarter and even a couple minutes into it. The rebounding was especially egregious to me. He ended with 4. He had 1 for most of that game up until late in that third quarter that he started picking up a couple more, the 3 other ones there. There's not a defining basketball skill that deserves for him to be on the floor. He's not the best shooter on this team. He's not the best rebounder on this team. He's not the best defender on this team. And most of those, he's pretty close to the bottom. So I get being held hostage by the contract for this long. But at this point in time, every decision should be based on what makes the Sixers team better. And that's just not with Tobias Harris on the floor right now. I genuinely believe, I'm totally with you, that if he just is out injured in that game, if he just does not suit up, I think the Sixers likely win the game. And that's a tough pill to swallow right there.
No, it has a trickle-down effect, man. Like, he's so completely useless out there as a shot creator. That leads to other teams being able to double-team Tyrese Maxey, and the Sixers just can't get away with it because they have nobody on this team who can dribble past the guard in front of them, and the offense consistently goes down the drain in the fourth quarter. Everybody saw it happening. Mm-hmm. There was zero reason for Tobias Harris to be on that court in the fourth quarter. I don't know what Nick Nurse is watching. That was an embarrassment. I don't understand. Like, even Mo Bamba is terrible. Why isn't Council the fourth in this game? Council will at least be relentless driving to the basket. He'll at least try to get to the free throw line. He'll hustle his ass off for loose balls. He'll rebound the fucking basketball. And the Sixers were killed again and again on the glass in this one. Yeah. I don't know what we're doing. Is it politics, Sean?
I think it's the contract. I think that's the basis of it and kind of the seniority thing of that he's been there forever. This is his role. And I think Nick Nurse, the risk that he's really dancing with in Nick Nurse's head is, if I bench Tobias Harris, is this something that fires him up or I lose him for the season? And you don't want to lose him for the season, especially with the rate of how much turnover there's been on the roster. He's still going to be a guy that plays. They need those minutes filled. He's not a guy that I'm sticking up for basketball reasons, but I think that's the dance that Nick Nurse is doing in his head, that he would rather keep the risk of keeping Tobias Harris happy and seeing out the remainder of the season rather than ruffle feathers for a potential win in game 1 after the All-Star break. But I disagree with that, to be honest. I think every decision should be based on winning basketball games. And if Tobias Harris can't handle being benched, you know what? The cash hits either way, brother, that you're good. Don't worry about it that heavy. But I don't know. Each guy's built a little differently that way. Hopefully Nurse has a better feel for how Tobias is wired in that regard. But it just sucks. And it definitely hurt the team tonight.
What about you, Mitch? Thoughts on Tobias?
The only thing I can say is, how does Daryl Morey love this guy? How does Daryl Morey love this guy with his play? The pace is so slow. Everyone's not even guarding him. He's just like a liability on the court. I'd rather have Ricky Counter there. I'd rather have someone else there. But God freaking dang, this is I keep on saying this from day one. Please get rid of him. I'm keep on saying it.
Yeah,
I know.
They're just not going to take additional salary at this point.
And
Brent says,
you remember at the trade deadline, the report of the talks with the Pistons about a potential trade for Bogdanovich, that the door was shut when Tobias Harris came up. Who lit up the Sixers tonight? But Bogdanovich himself, and he shot the lights out. That right there, that defining skill as a shooter makes him more valuable to this Sixers team than Tobias Harris is, and that's a failure on Daryl Morey's part right there.
Alec Burks had 7 points, 2 of 4 from 3. Bogdanovich had 22 points, 6 of 6 from 3. Tobias Harris gave you nothing.